In a quiet, sun-kissed village nestled between green hills, there was a secret. A glowing cave where wishes didn't cost a fortune, or a lifetime of labor, but something far simpler. They cost just a single cup of water. Imagine that. A man, his face etched with worry, enters the cool darkness. He pours a cup of clear water into a small stone bowl. In a flash of gentle light, the cave answers, and a bag of rice appears before him. He bows, his heart full of thanks. In this village, wishes cost almost nothing, but as they would soon learn, even the smallest price can become too high. The villagers spoke of the cave in hushed, reverent tones. They believed an angel, carved from the stone of the mountain itself, lived within its walls. She never spoke, but her soft, steady glow was a language everyone understood. For generations, she had been their silent guardian. Whenever someone offered a cup of water, she would give them whatever they needed most. A sturdy pair of shoes for a long journey, a sharp new axe for the woodcutter, a pouch of gold for a family in death, or medicine to soothe a fever. Even lost things, a child's favorite toy or a sentimental locket, would reappear as if by magic. The villagers didn't just ask, they worshipped her, their silent prayers echoing in the stillness of the cave. She was their hope, their miracle, their stone angel. Among the villagers was a young boy named Taro, only 11 years old, with a heart as bright as his cheerful smile. Every week, without fail, he made the pilgrimage to the cave. But unlike the others, Taro never asked for toys or treasures. He would carefully pour the purest water he could find, fetched from the highest point of the river, into the stone bowl. Then he would whisper his simple, heartfelt request. Please, keep my grandmother healthy. That was all he ever wanted. And with each visit, it seemed the angel's glow would brighten just a little more, as if she recognized the selflessness in his small offering. His weekly ritual was a quiet conversation, a bond formed not on desire, but on love. Then, one crisp afternoon, something felt wrong. The air inside the cave was colder, the usual warmth replaced by a strange, unsettling chill. As Taro approached the angel, his heart sank. He saw tiny, spiderweb-like cracks spreading across her magnificent stone wings. Her light, usually a comforting beacon, was weak and flickering, like a candle caught in a draft, threatening to go out. Taro reached out, his small hand hovering near the stone. It whispered, his voice barely audible. Are you tired? The angel remained silent, as always, but then a tiny piece of stone, no bigger than a teardrop, crumbled from her shoulder and fell to the floor with a soft click. Taro's eyes widened in alarm. The angel wasn't just tired. She was breaking. The news of the angel's weakening state didn't stop the villagers. In fact, it did the opposite. Fear and greed began to mix, creating a desperate hunger. More people than ever before crowded the path to the cave, their faces a mixture of hope and demand. Their wishes grew bigger, more selfish. They no longer asked for what they needed, but for what they wanted. Gold jewelry to show off their wealth, new roofs for houses that were already strong, bigger farms to outdo their neighbors. They wanted endless piles of food and good luck for their businesses. They brought cup after cup of water, taking and taking and taking, without a second thought. Taro watched from a distance, his heart aching as the angel grew dimmer and the cracks on her body deepened with every granted wish. Why does she look so cracked? One man asked. A woman beside him scoffed. She just needs more water. But Taro knew the truth. It wasn't the water. It was the wishes. Determined to understand, Taro returned to the cave alone. He approached the stone bowl, his movements slow and deliberate. He poured the water. But this time, he stayed silent. He didn't ask for his grandmother's health. He didn't ask for anything at all. He just gave. And in that quiet moment of pure offering, a small miracle happened. The angel's light pulsed, growing slightly brighter, stronger. A warmth returned to the air. And in that instant, Taro understood everything. When no one asks, he gasped, the realization hitting him like a physical blow. She heals. His eyes traced the intricate network of cracks, each one a phantom scar of a wish that had been granted. She's giving parts of herself, he whispered in horror. She's been giving pieces of herself away for every single wish. The very next day, his fears were realized. A long line of villagers snaked out from the cave's entrance, their faces impatient, their hands clutching cups. Dozens of cups meant dozens of wishes. As the first villager made his request, a deep, ominous rumble echoed from within the mountain. The ground trembled. Inside, the angel's cracks widened violently, and pieces of her beautiful wings crumbled to dust at the edges. A boy at the back of the line, his eyes wide with terror, screamed, "The cave is breaking!" Panic erupted. The line dissolved into a stampede of fear as villagers shoved and scrambled to get away, their wishes forgotten. They ran for their lives, leaving a trail of spilled water and abandoned cups. Soon, the entrance was empty. Only Taro remained, standing frozen in the trembling. Gronin, Kabe, he refused to run. He walked slowly toward the crumbling angel, his small frame dwarfed by her presence. With a courage he didn't know he had, he placed his hands gently on her cold, stone knees. He looked up at her fading light and spoke, his voice filled with a profound sadness and determination. "You don't have to give anything anymore," he sighed softly. "Just rest. Today, I'll give you a wish." He lifted the entire wooden bucket of water he had brought, not just a single cup, and poured it all at her feet. It wasn't an offering for a wish. It was an offering for healing. As the water pooled around her base, it began to glow, spreading across the floor like a wave of liquid light. And then, for the first time in 1,000 years, the stone angel moved. It was a small movement, barely perceptible, but it was real. Her hand lifted slowly, and she reached out, her stone fingers gently touching Taro's cheek. The touch was not cold, but impossibly warm. A voice, softer than the wind and older than the mountain, filled the cave, speaking directly into his mind. "Thank you, child." As she spoke, the entire cave was flooded with a brilliant, warm, golden light that pushed back the shadows and sealed the trembling earth. The cracks on her body vanished, knitting themselves back together until her stone skin was smooth and whole again. She was no longer breaking. She was reborn. The angel stood, rising to her full, magnificent height, her light brighter and more powerful than anyone had ever seen. She looked down at Taro with gratitude, then turned her gaze outward, beyond the cave. "No more wishes," her voice declared, echoing not with anger, but with gentle finality. "Only gratitude." She lifted her hand, and a wave of her golden light washed over the village below. Outside, the villagers, who had been cowering in fear, looked up in astonishment. Their fields began to bloom with impossible speed. Barren trees suddenly hung heavy with ripe fruit. The rivers and streams began to flow with water clearer and purer than ever before. The angel's voice washed over them all. "A village that gives," she announced, "receives." Taro stepped out of the cave, blinking in the sudden sunlight. He found the villagers gathered, their faces no longer filled with greed or fear, but with awe and shame. Ase appeared. They bowed their heads. An old woman, her eyes wet with tears, stepped forward. "You saved her," she said, her voice trembling. "And you saved us." From deep within the cave, the angel watched over them, her light a constant, warm, and loving presence. The cave no longer gave wishes. It gave blessings. It taught the village that a helping hand was worth more than a pouch of gold, and a healthy crop was a greater treasure than any jewel. And they all learned that sometimes the greatest blessings are the ones you receive when you stop asking and start giving. Gratitude creates more miracles than desire ever could. Give, and the world gives back. Thank you for watching.